From building growth at Handy to transforming AI-powered customer interactions at Regal.io, Alex Levin has been behind some of the most game-changing innovations in tech.
What if the biggest shift in human interaction is happening right now and you don't even know it?
I like being on the edge of what's like new and possible that no one else has done before. That's pretty. As we removed customer interactions, it actually hurt the business. It didn't help the business. AI is going to overtake humans very quickly.
Will you lead the future or get left behind?
There's nothing stopping it from being very heavily moved to AI agents.
From building growth at Handy to transforming AI-powered customer interactions at Regal.io, Alex Levin has been behind some of the most game-changing innovations in tech. Today, we uncovered the strategies that drive $5 billion in revenue to top brands like Google, AAA, and Toyota. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you taking your time to be here. Looks like you've had a really fascinating career from Handy to founding Regal.io. Can you share how your experience at Handy kind of shaped your vision for Regal.io?
Sure. I mean, to start with, I'm very lucky to get to do what I'd like to do. Not everybody gets that opportunity. I found out pretty early that I enjoy being at early stage startups. I like the uncertainty. I like sort of having everybody in the foxhole together working towards the same outcome. I like being on the edge of what's like new and possible that no one else has done before. That's pretty unusual. Andy's a great example of sort of the way these startup sort of opportunities go, where I came in sort of as a director, ended up taking more responsibility. We ended up merging the company with Angie's List and Home Advisor, and our boss became the CEO of all three. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves running like $1.5 billion of revenue, and having a material impact on people's lives that were looking for home improvements. So you never know where you're going to end up. You just have to get in there and do good work. To this specific opportunity, my background is more in product and marketing. And the original thesis at Angie in the home services space was that you wouldn't need to talk to people anymore. It'd all be on the internet, and like somebody would just show up and like fix your kitchen, whatever, that would be it. And the funny thing is, what we found is as we removed customer interactions, it actually hurt the business, didn't help the business. And like in retail, it's the opposite. Like in retail, no one, you don't need to go talk to somebody about your return. You click on a button and you see your return, fine. But there's sort of everything that people shop for online, and maybe is one category. There's another category of things that are moving online that are more considered. It's about half the consumer economy that is in healthcare, insurance, education, home services, these much more complicated industries. And they will be online, don't doubt, but not everything is going to be self-serve. And so as we started wanting to invest more in the contact center, I grew very frustrated with the quality of the tools. The joke I always tell, forgive me, is you don't want tools that are older than your agents, right? So like, these are tools that are 30 years old, even though the most innovative contact center tools, and our agents were younger than that. So, we left and started Regal. And basically our premise was a few things. Was one, let's go and use the data we know about customers to perfect every interaction and personalize every interaction, right? It's not what contact centers do today. They mostly just treat everybody the same. Two, we really were long AI voice agents. So we believe there'll be more voice as the price comes down, and we think that AI is going to overtake humans, very quickly. And three, in contact centers, classically, people who sort of manage those tools go, oh, it's like so brittle. I don't want to change anything. And like, I might lose my job if I break something. So like, they don't change anything, even if it's not perfect. And so we wanted to give people tools to allow A/B testing and trying new things and building that culture of self-improvement and constant change that we see be so successful in product, and we see be so successful in marketing. So, that's what we set out to do. At this point, we have hundreds of customers. The two main products we sell a CCaaS product, meaning we replace the core contact center software that companies use to talk with humans, that their human agents use to talk with humans. And we sell an AI product with the operating system around it. So there, you don't even have to change your current setup, but more and more, we're seeing people shift from human agents doing 100% of things to maybe now it's 10 or 20% by AI agents. And I'd say 10 years from now, it'll be 90% autonomous AI agents handling these interactions. So it's a very exciting time where, despite all of the whatever difficulties of doing this, there are very innovative people in the contact center, very innovative people, in these new online brands that are pushing to start using new technology and do things in different ways in the contact center.
That's really interesting. I mean, I actually agree with you. I think the home services thing, I've only had experience with TaskRabbit, but like you put your deal out there, you get a person that says yes. I mean, we actually had a person come one time. We needed some weeds removed from the front yard, and we were very specific. We put pictures, and we live in Vegas, so like it's not grass, it's rocks with weeds growing out of it. Person should know that. They show up. He's out there for like an hour, and then he comes and goes, "Oh, this is much more difficult than I expected it to be." And that's the problem. You needed to have that interaction with him ahead of time to say, "Hey, it's
Mhm.
our front yard. It's filled with rocks. You're not going to be able to comfortably like kneel down, and pull the weeds." Then they could have made up their own minds. I really agree with you on that kind of stuff. But it seems to me like in my research, Regal, you've gotten some amazing results for your clients. I mean, some of the things I saw was doubling call answer rates and boosting revenue by like 25%. What specific challenges in customer engagement were you trying to solve when you founded Regal?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, one of the first insights we had in home services was that people were not doing enough proactive engagement of customers from the contact center. They're just sitting back and waiting. Oh, if the customer needs something, they'll contact me. Okay, that may be true sometimes, but there are many times the customer just not get engaged. So we, at the beginning, one of the insights that we brought to customers was, hey, you can do much more outbound calling and you can do it better. You can get a third of people to answer it, and that can turn into a lot more revenue and opportunity for the company. And so we were working both with people already doing outbound calling and those not yet. So that was a very sort of good opportunity. Now we also make sure we have a whole other set of things we do with customer service organizations to eliminate IVRs and improve the personalization and make sure that we're having the right conversations. So there's a lot of value in the contact center across inbound and outbound. And then, like we were talking about, we now the number one product people are asking about is these autonomous AI agents, particularly in voice. Those are across both the sort of outbound sales teams and inbound customer service teams. And it's just, it's nice to see people like react to this new product because people are so yeah, sad or disappointed in the products that existed and just like felt like there was no choice. And so when they get Regal and they go, wow, like the next generation of contact centers could be built in a very different way, that's quite exciting.
So your platform has led to an impressive $5 billion in revenue for your clients. Can you break down what the key innovations are that drive those results?
Sure. So, some of the stuff we're already talking about. So, on the outbound side, how do you do more proactive outbound that's, in the same way you might be using email to engage customers at key moments in the life cycle, think abandoned cart or win back or cross sell, start using calls, right? Because that's an opportunity to get a very high percentage of people engaged. Like I was saying, you can get 30% of people to answer a call, which is wild when only 2% click on an email. And as long as your customer value is high enough, it's worth then having that conversation with them. So that's one. Two, to what we talked about on the inbound, stop looking at inbound only as a call center. So if customers are in a certain valuable segment, even if you could send them to self-serve, maybe instead don't send them to a human being who can help them with their issue and then have the opportunity to talk with them about other ways they could be using your product. So I think instead of thinking about treating everybody the same, treating each person differently based on what you know about them, it leads to quite a lot of value. And then again, to what I just said, the biggest value now is with these AI agents. Historically, contact centers have had to make hard choices and say, well, I wish I could offer the same level of support as a small businessman that's, or woman that's running all over the place, but I just can't afford to do that at scale. Either I need to have human beings that do things efficiently as possible, or these bots that do things even more cheaply and more efficiently. AI agents hold the promise of very inexpensive and very high quality interaction. So you can be as good as those small businesses, but a fraction of the cost. And so that's why it's excited people so much is instead of having to disappoint customers and not offer sort of good voice support, not be able to sort of be always available, not know what's going on with that customer's account, not be able to speak that customer's language because they couldn't afford to do it. AI agents allow them to unlock all those things, right? Because AI agents are omniscient, they're always available, they speak every language, they know everything about you. So it's really it's not a question of like, can AI agents do as well as humans? Yes, they can do that. Let's get past that conversation. It's what are the things AI agents can do that humans can't? That's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, that at that we chatted a little bit about earlier about, a person I've interviewed here before, and they have like an AI based chat bot, and the concept is supposed to be kind of like Siri, where like it kind of learns from what questions it doesn't know the answers to, and then builds its, model from that, or continues to add to its model from that. So yeah, I think that AI customer service agents is actually something that, if it could if you could get past the problems currently with voice, which they will, and how it sometimes sounds, you can't even say foreign, it just sounds really different. And I think if they can get past that, people would be more willing to work with them. But it's like I get calls all the time like, hello, can you hear me? And you're just like, I know you're fake, like you're not, you're just a computer trying to get me to a salesperson. So maybe improve that. So what is your process for identifying the needs of your clients and then integrating real-time intent signals into your AI solutions?
Sure. We came from this industry, so have some idea, like as a starting point. But, at the beginning of all these interactions, like there's a process in sales where we're sitting down and understanding what do they want to do differently. The answer is they don't want to do anything differently, then don't switch. Like, but you have a goal. The goal is you want to launch a new business line. The goal is you want to reduce your cost. You want to raise revenue. You want to change how something happens, do better A/B testing, whatever it is. So understanding the customer's goals is the beginning. And then, our teams are very good at working through like creating a plan together, like a joint action plan to go after that. And, at the beginning, we're very involved till the, customer gets trained up on the product. And then, the goal is for them to be able to do this on their own on an ongoing basis so they can keep making those improvements without us. And, it's an exciting process when we see these customers start going from never changing anything to like every week they have a new A/B test, or never, they're getting a 5% answer rate to like 30% of people are answering outbound calls, or on inbound calls like their CSAT, their customer satisfaction jumps. Like that's fun when all of a sudden you get those results.
Yeah, it's what I always say when I was a software developer, and people would say to me, how can you stand, coding all day long? Because I love watching when the client sees the end result and they're like, that was my vision. There's just something really cool about that. So you've worked with some major brands. We talked about Angie, Harvard, AAA. What's the biggest lessons you've learned about customer experience from working with such diverse clients?
Yeah, again, the history of contact centers is against all of us, right? So like when I first started working in the contact center, people told me, "Oh, it's a call center, voice is dying, we treat everybody the same, blah blah blah, whatever rules of the road." And look, maybe that was true in retail, but it's just not true in a lot of the industries that are coming online now. So what I push people on is I say, "Look, don't just take the status quo and repeat it. Like if you're in a new type of company, if you're in insurance or you're in education, use your brain, right? Use first principles to figure out what works for that specific industry. Maybe in your industry you need to do more calls, or maybe in your industry text is really important, or maybe in your industry, something else is really the unlock. But don't just assume because in retail they said, "Oh, everything's self-serve, we don't talk to the customer," that's going to be right for you. Like you're making a big mistake and you're going to hurt yourself. So, even brands that do well or fine without customer service and like pat themselves on the back, I think often would do better if they actually took the time to understand how they could use customer service as a differentiator. Take the online banks just as an example. A lot of the online banks are very proud of the fact that it's all self-serve and they don't talk to people, and that's a cost savings. Well, you know what? Like, if that's the case, like, what's the differentiator between these online banks? Like, they're using the same tech infrastructure, right? It's very easy to move money in and out. Like the brands exist a little bit, but like Chime, Vero are not huge brands. If you don't have a service component, don't have a relationship between you and the customer, the second something goes wrong, they're going to switch and go to the next product. But, I still remember when I was a kid, I banked at like M&T Bank, and like Bob the banker made a mistake, but I stayed because, I had a relationship with them. So I think that too many products are relying only on brand as a differentiator or not using service as a differentiator online.
That's kind of an interesting concept because, like, I know some of my kids have tried like the Varo, and Chime, and they hated it because there was no, like you say, there was no service concept there at all. There was no way to get in touch with somebody and say, "Hey, there's a mistake." It was a headache for them, and they ended up switching to more, traditional banking. So
Right.
I really think that's a extremely valid point. So, what inspired you though to focus on AI powered customer experience at Regal?
Well, we always knew when we started the business that the level of data and insight we had, like the way we work with companies, we plug into all their customer data systems so that we can start doing this personalization and A/B testing and things. So we always knew that would give us a leg up as AI got better and allow us to, instead of like at the beginning, it was like showing humans what to say and humans still did it all. But as the AI got better, we knew that would get us to a place where the AI could do cool things. It wasn't until 10 months ago, like beginning of 2024, where we finally got our product to the place where we go, wow, like that is good enough. We should be pushing this to customers. Because before that, it was annoying, it was bad, it wasn't there. But it's there now. Like it is good enough to replace human interactions. And so that's really when we shifted, the percentage of our effort going towards AI agents and particularly voice agents. And now the sort of marching cry, so to speak, is saying, look, 10 years from now, 90% of these interactions will be handled by autonomous AI agents. And I think the best brands, it'll be 5 years from now, they'll be handled by, AI agents.
So, Regal integrates real time customer intent signals into the platform. Can you explain how the technology works and why it's so effective in driving growth?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, to come back, not to repeat myself again, but to come back to the points at the beginning, the points of differentiation are using data for personalization, using AI voice agents, doing A/B testing. That's what drives real value. So, like, if I think about the change that's happening in organizations, they're going from looking at, basically marketing as this fancy organization where you pay people a lot and they spend budget to get new revenue, and they look at the contact center as a cost center, right? So that's the like one whatever setup, if you will. But I think the future, especially once you have more AI agents in the mix and better tools in the mix, is the contact center and marketing team should be on the same level, reporting to one exec, and should both be seen as using budget and using new tools to vary what they're doing and try new things to drive more revenue from new and existing customers. And that transition will be really powerful, both because it's going to unlock the opportunity for brands to do better and because it'll drive much better customer experience for end users.
So, a lot of companies they have a hard time balancing automation with personalization when there's customer interactions. How are you guys striking that balance between AI and human agents?
Uh, yeah, it's funny. Like, at the beginning, I was more worried about that. And yes, they're still worried now, like a world now where we're blending human agents and AI agents. But I'd actually say that the benefit now of tools like Regal is that allows you to solve like a human, whether it's humans or AI doing it, but scale like software, right? It has both the benefits of the human side and the benefits of the scale side. The problem with the contact center technology that's existed over the last 30 years is it dehumanified everything and didn't take advantage of what software does very well. It basically just was like it was like a factory. It was like, hey, your job is to stamp this thing. Cool. Here, stamp this thing, stamp this thing, stamp this thing. Okay, that's faster. Like that's all it did. It never took advantage of data, never took advantage of AI, never took advantage of A/B testing. It just was highly automated and inhuman. So it's ironic, but actually what will bring the human feeling back to contact centers is AI agents.
So, what's the most surprising success story you've seen from one of your clients?
Well, I'm never surprised when they're successful. Like, they're coming to Regal to be successful. But, we had a pretty, a large home services provider in the doors and window spaces in the Midwest that literally year over year with Regal doubled their revenue. They like sent me a note, and they were like, "Oh, we did X millions of dollars last year in this month, and we did double that. And the only thing we changed was Regal." Like, that's weird. I was like, "Okay, that's great, guys."
Yeah, that's good stuff. When your clients are like, I don't, all we did was start using your services, and suddenly we've exploded. They obviously have the answer as to why. So you've managed to double answer rates and increase productivity by quite a lot. If you could apply those same results to a completely different industry, say like space travel, education, whatever, what would it look like?
Like, what industry would I choose?
Yeah, and how would you implement?
I honestly, so much of my time is spent thinking about sort of consumer businesses. So like, this is where my brain is. Um, I don't know if I did something else. I'm not sure what industry I'd go to, but broadly, like, the themes are similar. I think like the companies that are successful, whether it's in manufacturing or in insurance or in B2B, are the ones that can start doing the stuff we're talking about. Like, be much smarter about, personalizing each thing they're doing. Be smarter about continuously learning and trying new things. Be smarter about how they're using AI agents to amplify they're humans. So, it could be for engineering, it could be for marketing. So those are the same themes across every company. We just happen to be taking that really in a focused way around the contact center.
So I know that AI and human collaboration, it's pretty central to your approach. If you had to pick a historical figure to work as a human agent alongside Regal AI, who would you choose and
Well,
why?
you can basically do it now, right? Like, you can, create these voices and create these attitudes to like match real people. So often these characters are generated. So you try not to do it about, real humans. Like, I think somebody made a voice too close to Scarlett Johansson and she got pretty upset, as she should. But I wonder if people are gonna like, Gore Vidal will come out with a, Abraham Lincoln AI agent, to be a companion to his book about Abraham Lincoln. If I had to choose somebody, one of my personal passions is sort of the like the in a time when the world was still not discovered, all of these people that were insane and went off the ends of the earth. So like Christopher Columbus or like Shackleton or these people that literally had no idea if like there was a there, if they would ever come home. So like, if we could bring some of those people back and, really understand what was going on in their brain or not going on in their brain as were, I think that would be quite interesting.
Yeah, as a content creator myself, I've been watching like the last year the AI tools for video, and they started out really dismal, like just terrible, terrible, terrible. A head. You'd have it create a human being and have it talk. It'd just like be a head. It wouldn't even be a body there sometimes, and that's improved tremendously over the past year. But I think that where it's mostly improved is in like the animation area, where you're doing animated video, or maybe motion graphics. They're really good at creating those things. I mean, there's even tools out there for, where they create PowerPoints for you because people aren't as creative, and so people are just bored at, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. So they have these AI that creates something a little more interesting, and so it's kind of replaced human interaction in some of the like creating of a new presentation. So obviously, in a world where AI is dominating customer service, what do you think is a touch point, a human touch point that'll never be replaced?
Dangerous game to say something will never be replaced. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain things that require still sort of human touch, I guess. So, I think there are some that are harder to replace. Perhaps like I don't know, I was gonna say a surgeon is harder, or maybe um, psychologist or something. But it's not that they can never be replaced; they're just not going to be replaced first. I think what's interesting in these things is there's some people, and I was of this camp for a while too, where they were saying, look, it's never going to be all AI; it's going to be a combination, and they're going to work together. And I think it's true. There are some industries where they're going to work together, and realistically, for the next 50 years, the AI is not going to be good enough to really replace the human entirely, and maybe never. But there are a lot of industries where, yeah, the AI will just replace the human, and the human will go learn how to train the AI, learn how to do other jobs that are created, but won't be doing that job anymore. When the I don't know, the washing machine was invented, people were very worried about it destroying jobs. When the internet was invented, when the phone, the cell phone, the touch phone was invented, each time people are worried about it destroying jobs, but in reality, it's just created more efficiency and more jobs. So we're very good as a species of about using these new technologies to drive new innovation and create more jobs and more economic opportunity.
Well, like I've told this story on this show several times before, but it kind of bears repeating here. One of the ways that I've seen that I find really intriguing how just simple AI like ChatGPT has been used in an unusual industry is in the medicine field. There's a story of a lady who had a 3-year old, took them to one of those trampoline places, and afterwards, child was having all sorts of, they were having seizures, they were having all these different problems. Went to many, many doctors, had all these tests done, and they just couldn't figure out what was wrong. And so, the mom's sitting there one night, wide awake, can't sleep, gets an idea. She sits down at ChatGPT and she starts telling the whole story of her kid, and she inputted every data point from the records that she got back from MRIs, CAT scans, etc. And ChatGPT gave her a suggestion about what it might be. And so she thought, well, this is crazy, but I'm going to go talk to the neurologist in the morning about this. Called the neurologist and he said, we should check that. It's possible that that's what it is. And it turned out that was what it was. And I think that, sometimes I marvel at doctors. Like you go in and you're like, I'm having these 3 symptoms, and they're like, oh, it's this. And they're right, probably 90% of the time. But there's that 10% where they're like
But I remember,
floundering.
like when I was a kid, I remember my like what our family physician when I was like must have been 7, 8, 9, went from like him prescribing everything to somebody gave him like a little PDA handheld thing where he typed in what he wanted and it showed him the drugs and the interactions. And I remember him saying like this is game changing because before that he stuck with 2 or 3 jugs where he knew it wasn't going to cause a problem, and he was often like nervous about a lot of these situations that were more complicated. Now with this he just looked it up and it wasn't a problem. So technology is an enabler. Like it is a phenomenal enabler. And the doctors who are able to learn how to use ChatGPT better than others will become better diagnosticians. So, will it ever get to the point where there's no doctor? Probably someday, yes. How again, is that 5 years away or 50 years away? I don't know. Like that's not an industry I know enough about. In the contact center, I can tell you there's nothing that is stopping it from being from being like very heavily moved to AI agents. It's a perfect case where they're highly contained, very repetitive, very well documented, great training materials. Like in the same way we're able to train very sort of entry level people to do this job, we can train AI agents to do it. It doesn't take years of training like becoming a doctor.
Yeah, and I just found that whole story really intriguing because, okay, here, think about this, and that did solve the child's problem, which was really, that's a big win for ChatGPT. But I just think to myself, like as a software programmer in my background, computers do what you ask them to do, and they dot all the I's and cross all the T's. They're not lazy. They don't skip over things. So I think for things where, for collaboration with a human, it's excellent because it's going to look through everything each time and find the answer rather than I'm tired today. I'm going to skip that part. So let's say Regal.io was a contestant on Shark Tank. What would your 30-second pitch be to the sharks?
In contact centers, you have 17 million agents today making 50, 60 grand a year. Within 10 years, that'll be entirely replaced by autonomous AI agents. And so it's one of the fastest, most interesting shifts that's happened in the history of business. And so like this is a critical opportunity for very companies that are very good at quickly building, quickly iterating, using new technology, which is what startups do very well. And it's a situation where the incumbents are going to be laggards because they're not going to stay on top of what the newest and best is. So, as long when you have that massive dislocation is such a cool opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by how rapidly people are coming up with intriguing ideas and interacting with AI. And it's kind of mind blowing actually. But as someone who's been involved in technology for a long time, it's not exactly shocking that it's happening, but just some of the ideas that are just so creative, and it just kind of blows the mind. And I mean, like it's like this conversation. I mean, you've pretty much you're basically saying that you can see a time where as a contact center, you can be run 100% by AI as long as that voice component is working. And, people will never know, I suppose, that they're talking to a computer and not really talking to a human, right? I can see it
Yeah,
getting to that
I'll give
point.
you a funny, for instance, so like, in some of the industries we work in, there's licensing requirements. So to be a licensed life insurance broker, you have to go through a process. AI agents can't be licensed today. So setting up a conversation with one of the licensing bodies to try to understand what would it take to license an AI agent. Yeah, could the AI agent pass the test? No problem. Like tomorrow, they could pass the test. So it's not a question of could they qualify. It's a question of does it need to be a human to do this thing or not? And I think it's really interesting to see like, what'll happen. Like, will these bodies, whether it's unions or legislative sort of bodies, slow down AI agents and hold back, or will they accept it and accelerate? So we'll see what happens.
And I mean, I would assume that, one of the bottlenecks in a contact center is like how many agents you need. And then if it hits a busy time of the year for that business, you scale that up. I would imagine that these AI agents are almost instantly scalable. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, to me, it's sort of this whole conversation that we're having. It reminds me of when virtualized machines became a thing. And so, as a CTO, one of my jobs was to make sure that everything stayed scalable and we didn't break down. And the virtualization completely fixed that problem for me because I can set rules in place and say, all right, when the load is this much, spin up another web server, spin up a third web server, spin up a fourth web server. And you could handle the load regardless of what it was. So I imagine that that's going to be a huge business success is, hey, I only need ten agents right now, so I've got 10 agents running. Now I need 100. Well, I can scale up. I don't have to spend weeks hiring, training, etc. I just bring them online and they're ready to go. That's a really interesting goal to achieve at some point, I think, is scalable staff. Like that's just crazy to me. So this has been an interesting conversation. I really appreciate again that you took your time out on an afternoon, to spend with me. Where can people connect with you if they'd like to reach out to you?
Always easy to shoot me an email at hello@regal.ai, or you can go to our website at regal.ai.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for being here. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching another episode of Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. New episodes every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time here on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And if you don't mind, YouTube thinks that this video up here is one you'd be interested in. So give it a watch.